The next one is the Coastal-Burwood Community Board. And we've got Linda Stewart, who chaired the panel, and Kim Money, the chair. And Tim Sinters as well.
He's just come to look good.
Welcome, all of you.
Good morning, Leanne, councillors, staff and community. With me today I have our Deputy Chair Tim Sinters, our Submissions Chair Linda Stewart and our Governance Manager Jo Wells. I need to capture your full attention. There's pressing things I need to mention. Coastal-Burwood is a place in the city where people are passionate, creative and gritty. We've been hard hit, as you know, but we need the opportunity to grow. The unique character of these wards should be on tourist billboards. There is much that we could offer you, but that is dependent on what you do. Equity is still the main key to the board, community and me. A friendly reminder of the issues we face, so here's some things we need for our place. Moving right along. The New Brighton Foreshore regeneration has started. Good job everyone, and Christchurch Development. The beachside playground is completed and successful. The Christchurch hot pools have started and will be unique to the city of Christchurch. Some connecting streetscape works will start later on in the year. A positive momentum towards regeneration has begun. What is critical now is that this momentum continues. To support this momentum, the board requests that funding be brought forward from the long-term plan to this annual plan for DCL to action the Oram Ave extension. The Oram Ave extension was approved in the 2015 New Brighton Master Plan as a core critical component and has considerable support from community and local businesses. And you can see in the black circle there is the existing Oram Avenue, and the red portion is the extension required. Council has tasked DCL with the phased implementation of this project that will bring life to the mall by opening up vacant properties and creating a sheltered high-density retail hospitality area. The two properties required for the extension now lie vacant, creating opportunity to progress the extension. Timing is now of the essence. This extension was identified as the first action to be undertaken in the public realm, as this will have the greatest impact in regards to encouraging private development and investment in the New Brighton business area. It will link future projects as well as support and align regeneration projects already underway. So the board recommend the funding is brought forward for the Oram Ave extension. Thank you. New Brighton Shore Avenue toilets are at the opposite end of the New Brighton Mall to the beach. They are the only public toilet in the business area. So imagine you are approximately 80 years of age, you rely on a walking frame for support. You are right next door to the toilets at the chemist getting your pills, and you need to go. Can't use the Shore Ave toilets next door is not accessible for your walker. Nearest accessible one are half a kilometre away at the beach. Big problem for you and an embarrassing problem for you. We need to find an interim solution until new ones can be incorporated into the New Brighton Regeneration Plan. The South Shore South New Brighton Earthquake Repairs and Regeneration Strategy has been in the hands of Regenerate Christchurch for approximately 2 years. It has been on hold for the past 5 months. To have no outcomes or clear pathway forward at this point is a huge disappointment to both the board and the community, who have invested vast amounts of time and energy throughout the engagement process. So a message to you at this point. The community's views have not changed over the years. Separation of the earthquake repairs from the conversations of the long-term adaptation plan regeneration strategy is critical. They had protection before the earthquakes. It was destroyed in the earthquakes. They and we are not asking for something they never had before. The board and community have repeatedly expressed our serious concerns, including letters I wrote last year to Regenerate Christchurch, the Mayor and CEO, as to how these issues that have been left unattended are seriously affecting our community's general well-being. They are dealing with property and insurance issues and consequently the perception of the area. Yes, there is a conversation to be had regarding adaptive planning for coastal hazards and climate change. However, that conversation is for the whole city and will take time. Again, the board and community are not asking for something they never had before. For the sake of their well-being, an urgent fix is needed now. South New Brighton Reserves Estuary Edge. This area is between the South Brighton Jetty and the boardwalk, and it's approximately only 300 metres. Pre-earthquakes, estuary edge protection existed and did its job. The areas that weren't affected in the earthquake still do. It preserved and protected the edge and the recreational track. However, in the earthquakes, this section was damaged and slumped, allowing water to get in and erode the edge. The board has been like a broken record over the years, but you can see why when you look at these photos. The lack of repair over the years has allowed erosion to occur to many metres of the edge. Many trees have died and are dying as a consequence of the salt water soaking on top of the ground. Portions of the recreational track have now disappeared. These issues are creating anxiety in the community. Again, this area did not have problems pre-earthquake damage. There has now been an options report commissioned. The board are expecting to see this soon. There is a lot riding on the options report and funding will need to be allocated to it. These areas are beautiful and stunning part of the city, especially on high tide and sunset. The potential for city recreational use and enjoyment is huge in these areas, but it has yet to be realised and appreciated. Our roads and footpaths have yet to get to an acceptable baseline standard. This has been stated by our board over the years and by numerous local residents' associations as attached in our submission. The current condition of our infrastructure 8 years on begs the question, how much longer is this going to take? What is surprising and not helpful for the city, let alone our wards, is the minimal budget allowed for road renewals and repairs. We would encourage you to relook at this budget. There is the Transport Network Infrastructure and Residential Red Zone Seed funding in the Capital Acceleration Fund. This is very good. We would like to see our wards prioritised in this fund and that there is an acceleration of renewals and repairs for us over the next 12 months. We have listed some health and safety priorities in our submission to assist staff, and we appreciate that since the submission was written, a couple of these are underway. Please put yourselves in our shoes, or in this case, in our cars, on our bikes and feet. Midge Management Program. We thought that this had been left out of the budget, but we've been told that it hasn't, so thank you very much. Funding's been locked in for the next 10 years. This is excellent. Thank you. Organisational savings. The board does not suggest any reduction in operational activities in the ward areas as we are still in a regeneration and earthquake repair stage. So in good faith, the board has proposed that the significant savings of $2 million on the earthquake repairs of the New Brighton Pier be used for some of the ward's numerous earthquake damaged assets yet to be repaired or replaced. For example, the New Brighton War Memorial cenotaph steps beside the pier. These are unique to the city of Christchurch and the front entrance to the New Brighton Historical War Memorial. We must cherish this site that honours those who served our country. Currently, as you can see here, this is not an entrance to be proud of. Other examples these savings could go towards are the South Shore and South New Brighton Estuary Edge, temporary stock banks that need to be permanent. The use of these savings on these projects would be welcomed. Changes to budgets. The board would like to have early communication on any changes, removals and alterations on line items in the ward. We spent a lot of time checking for these. To provide transparency for community engagement and for the board's efficacy role, we request that the ward fact sheets are produced early. These are to include existing and proposed budgets, removals and additions. We requested this in the long-term plan, and I don't think you'll probably remember, but there was a caricature of me pulling my hair out. I'm still pulling my hair out. But we can do better. So on that cheery note, I will pass you over to Linda, who will cover the Burwood ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Still got plenty of hair though. My focus is on the Burwood ward, of the Coastal-Burwood ward. I'd like to draw your attention to the map. I'm not focusing on the red, I'm focusing on the blue, green, purple, greyish blue and green. These are the homes that have been left languishing since the earthquake, and really nothing has happened for them. The board advocated for a project for a combined hub for Darlington, Burwood, Avondale in 2017. To recap, Sarah Wiley's research study clearly identified a need for a community facility in this approximate location. Next step, Global Leisure Group was appointed by the Joint Communities Working Party to provide a feasibility study on what this facility's purpose and vision would be. It was assumed a new build would be required. However, two options in the approximate location were provided in the report. These could meet the needs of the three suburbs separated by the Avon River and the residential red zone land. Regardless of those options, the feasibility study should embrace the principles of the Otakaro Avon Regeneration Plan. The opportunity this facility could honour and maximise is not just the typical indoor activities centre, but also harness the unique opportunity to provide outdoor activities such as on-river sports and outdoor adventure potential this environment and the green spine concept offers. In short, a building that acknowledges all that has happened to the environment and the people are the two elements for success. To meet these principles, the board feels the facility will need to be fit for purpose, design, and seeks the council's support to expedite the recovery of those three suburbs. Taiora Kiwi 2. There are two project requests to maximise the facility's ability to meet the needs of users. After many complaints, community representatives, the community board and staff undertook a site visit. The late addition of the hydrotherapy pool added an aspect of immense value. Because it was a late addition, the provision of appropriate toilet and change facilities for those pool users would mostly have health challenges, and it didn't eventuate. The outcome of the site visit found general agreement that the 55, not 40 as it's in your submission, 55 metre walk from the hydrotherapy pool to the change rooms in cold drafty conditions is unacceptable and challenges the dignity of those users this pool was intended to serve. This is a health and safety challenge for the council and those users. The second relates to the spa pool. To summarise our written submission, the spa does not meet therapeutic needs. The joint site visit members agreed the most sensible solution was to convert the atrium room behind the current spa to an adult use spa and repurpose the existing spa to a family spa, which currently does not permit child access. The community board and the community reps requested costings of these two concerns 8 months ago and wish to have these two aspects progressed to the LTP. West Haven trees. Planted in the 1970s, not 1998 as it says in the submission. Some were felled by windstorms in the 1990s, and many of the remaining trees have created damage to council infrastructure and private properties, so that's fences, driveways and masonry works. The damage will continue to increase the cost of those repairs. A community consultation was undertaken, leading to a widespread support for tree replacement program, but that was put on hold in 2018 by the Parks Unit and needs to be reinstated. Engagement with our residents' associations. We have been consistent, and the board regularly consults with its ward's active residents groups, and as a lead into the draft annual plan process held a forum to gauge their concerns. These can be read in attachment A. And to wrap up, we would like to convey the following. As much as your eastern folk wish for the city as a whole to grow and prosper, the issues we have spoken of today continue to hold back the recovery of your eastern wards. New Brighton's Legacies project is almost there, and its completion is an exciting prospect, but it also hurts us to see the daily impact our communities live with, particularly those still directly impacted by the earthquakes and left to languish 8 years on. We speak for them. Thank you, and thank you for considering our submission.
And Pauline.
Thank you. Have you got the tram back out in New Brighton?
We wish.
Looks great.
It was a nice photo.
Yeah.
That's the future.
Cool. I totally support that, by the way. So put it in next year. The changes that you've identified. I'm looking at page 67 and 68 of our plan, and none of the changes that you've referenced as being changes are listed in the changes. So can you just help me understand how you've found those changes?
I got the long-term plan book and the annual plan books, and compared them together, and that's the information that was available to us. We just had literally the books, the full books.
Right. So have you checked with staff prior to your submission around whether these are actual changes or whether project titles have been changed or program level budgets have been amended to include this work happening?
Some of the things we've had answers on, some of the things we haven't answered,
Right.
some of the things we haven't actually asked yet. But the point of this is the fact that it shouldn't be this difficult for us as a community board or community to be able to visually see what is actually in the budget and what's not.
Yeah, can I say I agree with you 1,000%. Since the start of this process, I've been trying to get that information made clear, and staff and other members will be aware of that. So I totally endorse the concern that you've raised.
Yeah.
This is really frustrating when I meet with staff and I'm told this is the list of all the changes, and you're coming along saying, actually, no, there's all these other changes. And I just wonder what other changes in other board areas have been made that people are not aware of. So it's really concerning that you've raised this, but thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will get some information on this particular one, because I think some of them are because they've been completed in the previous financial year, but that should be crystal clear. When you should be able to see at all times what's going on in your ward, and you should have a monthly report coming to your community boards updating you on the capital program as relating to your ward. That's an aspiration that we've all continued to push towards, and we'll get there.
Good.
Anne.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Just given your reference to mental health and levels of suicide, which obviously we're all concerned about, do you feel that there's appropriate resources in your community to manage those needs?
I think given the state that the city's in at the moment, those resources are stretched across the city. I know that some residents' associations have gone out of their way to provide contact details for their residents so that they have access to that. Our own staff are making sure that they're talking to community groups, letting them know where the resources are available. So the community and staff are doing all that they can to do that, but we're also very aware that at this time those resources are very stretched across the whole city, if not New Zealand.
Yeah, thanks for acknowledging that. That's great. It would be good to continue that conversation in terms of your situation going forward. And I just, there's so much that needs to be done over your way. What would be the top thing if you were to rank things? I know that's a difficult question, but from what you're hearing from general people, general residents, what would be the thing that they would really appreciate being done?
That is a tough question. I don't think that, if I picked out one thing that wouldn't be appropriate for me as a chair on behalf of a board or a community, I think that we have to put everything out on the table. There is a lot of things that are important to a lot of people, and even within the community, their variations on what is important to them would differ. So we're just saying, here it is. You have all the resources and the staff to work all those sorts of things out. So I'm actually not going to answer your question on that today, sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It was a tough one. Sorry.
Yeah, Pauline.
Just quickly on the QE2 situation, So you've got the two things, the extra toilet required as an inadvertent consequence of getting a hydrotherapy pool, and then you've got the spa, and you said that you've requested costings on those?
Yes, staff are working on that as we speak,
They are.
so...
Well, so when are you expecting something back?
well, as soon as they can possibly
How
get
long's a
the...
piece of string?
Exactly. So they're onto it. So this,
So will that be delivered as a combined project? Because I think there could be a little bit of a downside to that, if maybe you should treat them as separate projects completely.
I would imagine staff are doing separate prices for
Yeah.
both things, but that's probably a question for staff.
And I would
Yeah.
suggest that the toilet is more urgent, would you?
Yes, at this point it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excuse the pun. Okay, just
Yep.
wanted clarification on that, thanks.
Thanks, Pauline.
Jimmy?
Thank you. One question. Regarding to the new Burwood, Avondale, Darlington Community Hub, your particular emphasis, would like to signal to support put into the kind of new long-term plan, or purchase this one with some other funding. But also you emphasize this the community facility network plan still developing by the council staff. So my question is, because their network plan not yet come out, where is your information? What's written there? Your form. This one should be put on the long-term plan to replace the former Burwood community hall.
So, sorry, the last part of your question you're asking me is, Jimmy?
Because the original Burwood community hall has been demolished,
Yes.
after earthquake. Then you consider in the kind of wider area, Burwood, and also is Avondale, and also the Darlington, that area, you consider to build or to purchase a new community facility to meet all those people's needs. However, my question is, at the moment, the staff, community facility, network plan not yet come out. So what's the reason there? You assume, this one should be go on, yes.
And we've also got a feasibility study which is sitting in part of that. So staff are working together with our board staff and very much aligning up with that whole network plan that's going across the city. So they're working in tandem. So this facility for a community centre for these three areas is sitting in the line with the network plan for the entire city.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Phil, I'll let you, even though we're over time.
Thank you. Look, thanks, Kim, and your board for your report. And in a way, although there's the two wards within your board area, in terms of the challenges, it seems bigger at times, and I'm sure it does to you too. And like clearly, just what you showed us, there's a lot of high needs in the area, and that's been alluded to. But I'm just thinking about areas, and I've mentioned it before, about, for example, like Aranui and Waioni. Although there's community centres there, are they also areas that, in fact, somehow we as a council should look at how we support them more?
Good question, thank you, Phil. When specifically you talk about Aranui, we are very, very blessed with an Actis group there that are all over that area. They would do wonderful work in there and fully support their community. The park there at Waioni has had huge works done on that. Staff were wonderful. The community came up and they talked about the basketball court and how that could be incorporated and how that could be, worked in with the land drainage recovery program. So, really great things going on in that area, and I have to give credit to the staff and to Actis for all the work that they do in there and the wider area. And so this is why when we talk about the community network facility for Avondale, Darlington and Burwood, we just need to have some place where people can gather and bring like they do in Aranui. So if we could get to that point quicker like they have in Aranui, that would be absolutely awesome. Yeah, there's some great work going on in there. Thank
May
you.
I add to that?
Sure.
Yes. There are high needs in those areas that I showed in the map. It's not the red zone, it's the suburbs that are left behind. And the dynamics have changed very dramatically, and there's a lot of worry about their future. They look at the flooding issues, which they're impending. and the lack of bus. I know that's not a council issue, but what we're dealing with is a social isolation issue, and it is, I have to say, it is chronic.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much, and we do appreciate all the time and effort that you've put into developing the submission. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.